Okay, we're ready. All right, so let's make a formal introduction for our listener. Good afternoon, David. My name is Claudia. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that David Arkenstone accepted our invitation to our show. David, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much, Claudio. It's beautiful to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. So, we have been living in a very weird period for the last 2 years with the pandemic. I wonder how you holding out, how the COVID affected your sanity, your family life, your inability to play outside, whatever it is.
Well, yeah, the inability to perform has been not enjoyable because I love doing that because it's a way to take the music from the recorded position to people where I feel that's the full communication. I think recording is sort of like that's the first step sometimes. It depends on the kind of music, but I like to be able to take that music out and play it. And then when the band plays it, then it evolves a little bit and becomes something more. But usually, like pandemic wise, I work a lot on my own in solitude, sort of. And so when you couldn't go anywhere, I just worked more, I guess, and made more music and tried to learn some new instruments. I have a new synthesizer set up I'm trying to learn, and I have some other new things. And so I took that as one side was a blessing that I had all this time all of a sudden to do more, since I'm not have to think about playing shows. Okay, what else can I do? So that's what I did.
Yeah. For me, as I mentioned before, the best thing that happened to me, and I feel very bad saying this because in the United States over 1 million people die and millions of people all over the world, but the best thing that happened to me was the pandemic because it forced me to, look my life, put a different perspective, and then thought about what was important to me. I was going so fast in my life. I'm an engineer, working without, and that the COVID allowed me to slow down, to smell the roses, so to speak, and put this project together. So it was
I think that was true for a lot of people. You had to stop for a minute and look around you, and you have to see what's important, how you want to spend your time. I think there's a lot of people who don't want to go back to their office jobs if they can work 2 or 3 days a week and the rest at home. I think that has been a good thing, I think, for people.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. Were you born like in a musical family, and how old were you when you perhaps began taking piano lesson or guitar lesson at home?
Yes, exactly right. Pardon me. My parents were both musicians. My father was a guitar player and a kind of singer. My mom was an excellent singer and an excellent piano player. So my brother and I had lessons from very early ages. I have some old pictures of us sitting at a piano playing a duet or something. Pretty cute. But I always liked to practice. I didn't mind it like some children. It's like, oh man. But sometimes I'd see the kids outside playing baseball or something. I think, oh man, I'd like to be doing that. But I did practice. And then when I got into high school and even before that, when the Beatles came out and some other bands, I decided I wanted to do that full time. I remember an early memory when I was 4 or 5 years old and I first heard the Nutcracker by Tchaikovsky. I had a urge to find out how that music, what made that sound. So I think for a long time I was pursuing that, trying to make my own orchestra sort of out of different instruments. And then when I got to high school, I was in quite a few different kind of bands, jazz band, and then a couple rock bands. And we played original music. We started writing some music, not the greatest, but you have to start somewhere. And then college, I took more jazz classes and some performance classes. And then I got to the point where I just wanted to do nothing but make my own music.
And then after kind of going high school, you at the time you knew that you wanted to be a musician, or your parents were telling you, well, college is the only way, forget about music, you're not going to make any money, or
Well, we had a couple conversations like that where they said, you know, you sure, you know, because my dad was in bands and he knew what the path of a musician would be like. And I
yeah,
think they didn't discourage me, but they also said, oh, maybe you should do something to, you know, make sure you get by. And I just wasn't interested in that, but I did paint houses for a while. So that was my other job before I could make music a living.
that's right. What kind of bands were you listening when you were, I don't know, 16,
You
17?
know, when I was that age, we were listening to like Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes, and some of the groups from Italy like PFM, progressive rock bands, where they tried to mix classical idioms with rock music.
Yeah,
So we and I liked Styx a lot. We had very good harmony in our band, so we did that kind of music. But I liked, you know, one thing I got from my parents was a love of all kinds of music, because when we were growing up, they had every kind of music in the record collection you can imagine, from Herb Alpert to, like I said, Tchaikovsky, to jazz, to Broadway musicals, everything. And it was all, back then, it seemed like you could just listen to everything and it was okay. You didn't have to specialize. It was just all music to me. So I found that very nurturing, I think.
absolutely. The same happened to me. My growing up, I was born in Chile, and I
Hmm.
came to United States to study after high school, David. And my dad had, man, an obscene amount of music, jazz and tango. So,
Tango. Yeah, we
yeah,
didn't have tango.
yeah, from Argentina. And you know, my dad told me that I began listening music, I don't know, when I was a baby, I suppose. And but at 14, when I was 14, I kind of discovered rock and roll and the Genesis, the Pink Floyd, the Led Zeppelin,
Mm-hmm.
the Depeche Mode, you know, jazz stuff, so Jean-Luc Ponty, and the rest is history. You know, it's you got. But I have a good ear. I suppose, as I mentioned before, I never play an instrument. I don't know how to read music, but I have a good ear. I've been listening to music for, I don't know, 50 years, 4 hours a day or something like that. So I have
Yeah, and you
a
know
beautiful
good
thing. Yeah,
music.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and you know.
music has given me, as a consumer of your product, has given me a lot of satisfaction in my life. I don't know what it does to me, but it's like it's magic. You know, putting,
Yeah.
you know, coming home from work on Friday or whatever, and putting a headphone, drinking a cup of beer, and the music takes me places.
Yes.
Soundtrack, you know, electronic music, jazz, rock. It's a beautiful thing, man. Oh,
That's
it does something
especially
to me,
what.
man.
Yeah, that's a special thing. You know, that's what especially my music. I like to go somewhere. You know, I like to have little adventures that the listener can go with me on, I think.
No, absolutely, man. Man, you were, you know, in rock band, a progressive band, and when you were early in life, 17, 18 to 20,
Hmm.
and then you went from that to new age. How you went to new age after doing progressive rock, jazz club, classic rock? You mentioned Deep Purple, you know,
Yeah.
Styx, and so the how new age, if we can call it that.
Well, yeah, it was, you know, I was in bands and we kept losing our lead singer, and then pretty soon I had two babies at home, and I was looking at my life and I thought, I don't want to do the band thing for a while. I'm just going to try doing something on my own. So I got an 8-track tape machine and started making these little things that, because I've always wanted to be my own orchestra, you know, and so I could lay down a synthesizer track or a guitar track or a bass track or a drum track and then make a whole arrangement out of something. And that was super satisfying. And then I came up with some stuff that I thought was pretty good. I mean, I thought this is pretty good. And I went to Tower Records and looked at labels on the back of the New Age section, which was about you know, 2 albums wide. That was it.
That's it. Right, yeah.
There was like Will Ackerman and George Winston and Kitaro and very few other people.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Halpern maybe. And I got some addresses from those records, and I just sent cassette demos out to people. And you know, it was sort of new age, but it was more just like instrumental music, you know, because I think they were, Narada is the one I signed with finally, which was exciting because I'd been pursuing a record contract for so long with my rock band, and then nothing ever happened. So it got a little frustrating. And like I said, I had 2 children, and it was like, oh, what am I doing? You know, I wanted to be a successful musician since, you know, I was a teenager. So this was a beautiful opportunity that I had. But they had, on their label, they had acoustic guitarists and acoustic pianists. That's all they had. I came along and I brought these synthesizers. I played some flute. I brought these sort of fuller arrangements, you know, and so they had to figure out how that fit into their world. And then an artist named Peter Buffett came along also, and he had similar taste to mine, where he liked to use a lot of different sampled instruments and things like that. And so they created this label called Narada Mystique. And then I did my first album, and I was amazed and very lucky that people liked it.
Yeah.
So that's what I continued to do.
And there was, it was, so you couldn't get a contract on the record label as a rock musician, but with the kind of new age kind of stuff, was hard to get the new contract as a new age. I don't know. At the time was, you know, Winston Hill and William Ackerman, they were the main level at the time, right?
Yes. And then Kitaro. I liked Kitaro because he did the kind of music I wanted to make in that genre. It wasn't acoustic guitar. It wasn't just piano, which definitely has its place. It's beautiful. But it was not enough for me. I wanted to make more different sounds, you know. And he kind of did that. His early albums were, I heard one album and it sounded like Pink Floyd, like without the lyrics. And I remember thinking, wow, this person has a record deal, you know, maybe that's something for me. So I pursued that, and then and luckily people liked what I did. So I stayed in that direction. I kept that direction going.
Good for you, man. And then not only your music was primarily instrumental, but I read somewhere that in some occasion you have some vocalization as well, right? And
somewhat
vocalization.
Yeah, on my, I don't know which, might have been my 5th record, 6th maybe. Quest of the Dream Warrior, I did some vocals, because I'm not a lead singer, but I like to sing, and I added some of that, some lyrical songs to my new age palette.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And then from the instrumental type of music to then the soundtracks, and then video games, commercial, man, you went to a different path. You ever thought that you began very humble, if I can advance 40 years after Grammys and so on and so forth, you were painting houses, nobody give you a record deal, and then look at where you are right now, man.
I know, I just feel so blessed that people, I mean, when I go into the studio and try to make some music, I just try to make the best music I can, and the kind of music that I would like to listen to. Yeah. So that's the only thing I can do. You can't do whatever's on the radio that day and make it, it's already there. You have to do something, try to be different. And then luckily, you talk about video games or even some television, like on my second album, I had a song kind kind of a desert ride song. And a producer at NBC heard it, and this is right around the time we were doing an Olympic record. So he had me do the music for the Kentucky Derby, so which is still on today. So it's like you just never know where it's going to take you. And I've gotten lots of great comments from fans and people about that music and all my other music. And what I like about it is it's just another part of me. You know, it's still me doing that music. You know, you have different parameters. You know, if you're doing a 60-second piece for NBC, you have to think in a little bit of a different way instead of like, oh, I'm going to let this 6-minute song just play out. You can't do that. But it's all pretty fun, I gotta say. And then the video games, some people heard my music and thought it would be right for their game. So that was fun too. I'm still doing that.
Yeah. You inside of you, what's the motivation to, I mean, people call you to the video game or soundtracks or commercial, or you aim into, you know, man, I don't like to do that kind of stuff. I want to go into a direction, or pretty much you're able to adjust to whatever the demand is and then put your effort there.
Well, I think if you want to keep working, you know, because let's put it this way, in the 90s and such, I supported myself by my records. I would make a record, it would go out into the stores, and then I would get money for that eventually. So then the internet came along and changed everything, really everything in the world for many, many people. You know, like I think there's people that now think that music is just free. And it kind of is. If you just want to listen to Spotify and listen to ads, you can listen to anything all the time for free. So that has taken a toll on the music industry. So sometimes when I get like a NBC calls, first of all, I can use some instruments that I don't normally use, which is always enjoyable. Like maybe they want a big brass sound or something, which I don't usually put on my records or recordings. I can't call them records anymore. But so that's nice because I can choose some different instruments that maybe I don't use all the time. And it's very unusual for me to turn down an offer because I usually find something interesting about it. About everything.
And then since you own all right, and you know, as a publisher, you know, you get paid, I suppose, in television every time that a commercial is, you know, is here, or a TV show, I mean, or whatever that is, right? So
it's a few pennies every time they play something, but it adds up. You know, it just adds up over the year, and then you look at your check, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I can keep being a musician.
You'll never get another day job. What's your take on Spotify and Bandcamp and stuff like that?
It's very hard. You know, Bandcamp for me is nice because I have a few records on Bandcamp that people can buy directly from me. Yeah. Yes, Bandcamp takes a percentage, of course, but it's really kind of a direct line to the consumer since they cannot go into a record store anymore. I mean, most people can't. There's a store in Hollywood, you know, there's occasional record store that sometimes sells vinyl now, but people have a hard time finding physical copies of CDs. So I get a lot of orders from Bandcamp, and some people just buy a digital download too, which to me isn't satisfying. I like to have something I can hold and read and look at. And Spotify, I remember when Spotify was coming to the United States, there was everybody was against it. Most record companies, and it was a big deal. I don't know, that's probably 10 years ago, I don't even remember. But on the one hand, it's unfortunate because of what I mentioned before, which is anybody can listen to anything for nothing. Nobody gets paid. I mean, what you get paid from Spotify is so small on a per listen basis, like zero 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 zero.
Yeah, you need to have like a million hits
Yes.
a month to get a
Yes.
$200 paycheck or something.
Yeah, exactly that. So, but there's a flip side to that, which the internet has provided, which is a lot of people can find you who never would have been able to find you.
Yeah.
And so when you can reach so many people, I think you have good music, then you can get your share of your fan base and people who will follow you and enjoy what you do. So that part's good because you would never be able to reach so many people.
That's right. Yeah. For me, Spotify, I don't want to do the advertising thing, so I pay $10 a month or whatever that is, and
yes,
I'm able to listen to millions of artists all over the world that otherwise I wouldn't be able to hear them, right? So it's the great thing that happened to me on the other side is Spotify, because it's a great tool to discover new music. I'm always discovering new music. I'm always buying new music. I'm always trying different things, it's like a disease, I suppose. I mean, I like 100 bands, but I'm always looking for another 100 and so forth, so it's for me, it's great.
No, I pay for Spotify too, for that same reason. I like to hear what else is out there. And sometimes I just like to listen to a whole recording of mine just to hear it as an experience like that. And yes, I can do that on my own computer at home because I have all the tracks naturally. But I like to sort of be a consumer and listen to that sometimes. And what Spotify then does is sends you somewhere else to something you might like. And I'm always interested in that.
Right. So machine learning algorithms tell you, well, if you like David Arkenstone, you must like,
that's right.
This or that and that. And you say, yeah, why not? And try, oh man, this stuff great. And from there you go to another and that's great. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It's like a social, it's like a web, right? Like a social network. You can go from one place to another. And,
for somebody who enjoys music like you or me, it's like a gold mine. I mean, there's so much to find.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I noticed that you have working on other genres as well, like a heavy metal soundtrack for it's called Emperor: The Battle for Dune. That's very different from the stuff that you did before. It's because it's a different. It's the same person, but different way, different genre, I suppose.
Yeah, and that was nothing like the records I had been doing. That company, I mean, that's what they wanted because it was music for the Harkonnen, which are kind of the evil guys in the Dune stories.
Yeah.
And so you just can't do like a piano soundtrack for that or something. You have to, and plus they knew I could play guitar. So that was really a lot of fun. I get a lot of questions about that soundtrack still because nobody can find it. It's probably on Spotify, but I have a lot of people that would like to hear the original tracks, the high quality, and I don't think I even have them. And that company's gone, which happens a lot in video games, of course.
Yeah. So if a video game is not successful, I suppose they don't sell X number of copies, they go out of business.
Yeah, or they sell so many copies that somebody else buys them, and then they get buried into some other company, and you lose the creative people who were there.
Yeah,
I think that happens too.
Yeah,
but that was a lot of fun to do that. I like playing guitar in all kinds of ways. I can't do tango, but I like it. I enjoy it.
Looking back, you ever thought when you were, at the time, painting houses, trying with 2 babies at home, that you will end up, with a 5-time Grammy nominee? And my God, man, that's impressive. 1 is impressive.
Well,
and 5. Yeah. Never mind winning. I mean,
yeah, of course. The first one was a shock. Yeah. I mean, it was like, what? Because I've always my whole life, I watched, pardon me, the Grammys, you know, and then they created this category that I could be eligible for, and then I got a Grammy nomination, and it blew my mind. It was like, wow, it's a satisfaction, you know, when people that also make music nominate you. It's a beautiful thing. And
Yeah.
you know, when I was painting houses, I was always thinking I was going to be a rock musician. But this has actually turned out better because I can do so many things and I have so much freedom and I don't have to be in a radio format. I can just do kind of what I want. And I'm just fortunate that people go along for that ride and continue. I mean, last year I got nominated again. That was the 5th time. I was like, can't believe it. I'm still in the game, you know.
Of course, the first one probably to have, you know, was more important and perhaps giving more satisfaction than the other.
Yeah, because it was the first time. But also, I think, well, how come nobody nominated me for this other record, which I thought was way better?
The way better, according to you, was better. According to everybody else,
me, that's right. According to me, I think a couple of my records should have had Grammy nominations, but you know, you never know. Yeah. It's a fun thing to be part of, though, just to go to the ceremony and see all these people that are making music. It's really, really special.
Where that is in Los Angeles as well?
It has been in Los Angeles. Last year it was in Las Vegas because of the pandemic. They postponed it, and then they lost their dates at the Staples Center or wherever they're going to have it, where they usually have it. Yeah. So they moved it to Las Vegas, which was actually pretty fun, but it wasn't quite organized yet there. So I don't know what they're going to do this year.
For me, my Grammy nomination is interviewing people like yourself. I mean, as I mentioned before, it gives me a lot of satisfaction to talk to people. I'm going to be doing like a documentary on electronic music. I'm going to Germany in a couple of months and, you know, being in somebody's houses, talking to somebody that you had the record, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, and eventually drinking a beer with you or with another musician and be in the living room, you know, that's it's my prize, you know. It's
well, let me know if you get to California.
I was there, you know. I wish we have the conversation. I was there a couple 3 weeks ago, and
yeah, I'm sorry I missed you.
Yeah, and it's a bit, you know, as I say, with the radio, you know, I started as a way to protect myself from COVID, being at home, listen to your music, and now 150 interviews later, and I'm trying to get a hold of everybody in the universe. And
I bet they all want to talk to you. I think they all want to talk to you.
Well,
I think they all want to talk to you.
At the beginning, I was very kind of reluctant because I'm kind of an introvert, believe it or not. Due to my accent, and I said, man, probably the folks are not going to, you know, understand what I'm saying or whatever, you know. And here I am, 2 years later, still around.
Great.
Man.
Yeah, excellent. Congratulations.
No problem, man. Tell me about your creative process. Like, how the music come to you? I mean, you wake up in the morning with an idea. You go for a walk in Hawaii. Man, I hear some birds, some piano. You write it down, or how the stuff.
A lot of times I will, if I'm not at home, I will just sing something into a message to myself on the phone.
Right.
Like if I come up with a little motif or something. But usually it's just like you said, I wake up in the morning. First of all, it's just exciting to think about. Like if I'm not on a project, I think, okay, what am I going to discover today? What do I want to try? What do I want to experiment with? If I'm on a project, then I usually I wake up with part of the music I need to do for that. And then I go in the studio and make it more developed. And that's the way it usually happens. I mean, I've never been at a loss for inspiration, I'm happy to say. So I'm lucky in that way. I can always make something.
Yeah. And when you don't have like a deadline or a particular project, you are doing, you know, good stuff. You put them away, and then somebody hires you to do X, Y, Z. you try to bring the stuff from your library into back, or kind of reuse stuff you in a way did it before, and until somebody
Sometimes,
hire you to do a project or whatever.
sometimes, but usually it doesn't fit anything else. You know, it was made for a certain thing, and it that's what it fits.
Yeah.
So
Is it difficult to have like a to have like a deadline in front of you that you need to release something, I don't know, 2 Friday from now, whatever, and then
yes, deadlines. There's two ways to look at it. One is it motivates you. You have to do what you have to do. And the other part is it's a little scary because it seems like it's just around the corner. But it's usually okay. Usually it's not a big crunch. So I make my own deadlines mostly.
yeah. When somebody hire you to do a game, whatever, you tell them, okay,
Yeah.
I will get back to you in 3 weeks or whatever. Don't give me I don't know how long will it take.
Well, the way it is now, like the game I'm doing for Blizzard, called World of Warcraft, and their deadline is the date of the recording session with the orchestra, which is very important. Like you can't miss that because you have to be done with the music a week or two ahead of time so it can go to the orchestrator to make the notes for the musicians to play. So that's a deadline that is not, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to take another couple of days. You can't do that. You just have to get the work done. And it's usually been okay. It hasn't been, I don't know, hasn't been a problem yet. Some nights before the deadline, I stay up very late to finish things.
Yeah.
Like anybody, like any job.
Sure. Have you ever been in a position that you create something and they didn't like it and you need to go back to?
Yeah. Usually, especially if it's a game or a TV, they have a specific idea of what they want. Yes, they hired you to do it, but usually you get a good handle on it after they give you a description or show you some artwork. But then you might get some notes like, oh, we like this part, but this part, But that's what happens when you work with a team, as opposed to just working on your own music, right? Or you're the boss. It's very common to get notes.
Yeah, they may say, I like this part or like that. You work as supposed to have everything done according to you, send it to them, and then they get back. We don't like this stuff, whatever.
Yeah, it's not that. It never gets that bad. Yeah. I mean, it's usually just we'd like, because they know their game. They know what it's supposed to look like and sound like, and maybe they sent you a few pieces of art, but they really know what they want, so they can help steer you. It's really steering you instead of like, oh, this isn't any good. You don't get that. I don't.
Yeah. I heard that the world of the world of video games is very, very competitive. There are many people trying to get into that genre, if you will, right? So
yes.
A lot of people that do electronic music or soundscape, or they're good with keyboard, they think that they can, create tubular bells on a couple of nights or something. I don't know, or whatever that is, right? So,
it's getting better because a lot of major colleges have video game music courses, departments, or they have film music like USC. It's big. There are a lot of film composers come out of there, but that film music and video game music is very competitive. I mean, for every job, there's hundreds of people that are qualified and want that job. So it is. I feel fortunate that they keep calling me.
Well, after the 5 Grammy Awards,
Yeah,
when I
I don't
should
know if that matters
help
to
you?
them.
No.
Not in that case. They're happy for me, but I think it's more like, just do the right music for us.
Well, you are as good as your last composition, I suppose, right? So, but they keep on calling you back, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I must have done okay last time because they called me again.
Yeah, your music has been described as a soundtrack for the imagination. Feel free to elaborate on that. That's beautiful, beautiful 3 words.
Somebody said that. I didn't make that up. Like
Yeah.
somebody said it, and I thought it was really close to what I would say to people, because that's what happens to me when I'm creating it. My imagination, I have sounds I can use, every kind of sound you can imagine at my disposal. Even if later I then use real musicians to replace what I originally wrote because I don't like the sample or something. But I think I like that title because it helps people think about just expanding. It's not necessarily a love song. It's not something else. It's more like a journey. So when you say soundtrack, I think that's good for people to hear. It's like I make my own soundtracks for imaginary movies or whatever. Yeah, I like that. Some people have written things that I don't like, and I think that's not me. Because I remember there was an old thing called, which was also very close. In one of the bios, it said cinematic new age rock, but that's only a few songs that you could put that on. I like the soundtracks for the imagination because it's more open.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have done over 60 albums, man. Where the motivation come from, man? You still keep on going, man.
Yeah. Well, the motivation is I feel like I have a lot of music that I want to say, a lot of things I want to say. And sometimes it's just a matter of a couple of those albums have been sort of commissions where, like 20 years ago, I did some music with using the native flute. The Native American flute ended up being very popular. And so in that case, this company said, "Oh, we want something kind of like that." So I got to use that palette, again, I got to use those instruments. And then, so it goes from there to my latest, whatever I want to do in the latest, whatever mood I'm in, or if I want to do a record like the new Middle Earth record, I thought, okay, it's been 20 years. I think I have more to say on that. So I did that, but I'm never at a loss to, I'm just naturally motivated, I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Yeah. It's hard. It has to stay motivation. Whether you're famous or not, it's not that easy, man. It's either, like you say, either you have it or you don't. I suppose.
But I compare it to like an artist. Like, okay, let's say I was an artist, a painter. I wake up in the morning and I'm looking at this canvas that's 3 feet by 3 feet, and you have to visualize something being on that canvas before it gets there. I think, at least I do, and so that's the way I start with the music. One kind of piano sound or a rhythm, or I'll play a guitar riff or vocals. I have a lot of vocal samples, and I'll try to mix some, anything to get me going. And pretty soon that canvas is full of a bunch of things, and then you can take away things or add things, and then pretty soon you have a painting. So.
Yeah, I got you. And you end up creating your own, you have your own record label, right? The Neo Pacific, I believe it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that with my ex-wife a couple of years ago, 20 years ago, maybe. Yeah.
And how did you end up? Did it work out okay? The record label?
It's been incredible. I mean, because there was a lot of music I wanted to do that on the major label I wasn't able to do because they only wanted one record per year, but I had a lot of other things to say about other music, and we had some genres we wanted to explore, so we did that also, and we did some native.